Hello and welcome to Kyou no Anime, or today's anime. Today we're having a filler episode, which means we're going to talk about random stuff. I had a super interesting encounter at a bar. I won't call it super interesting like I just did because that's a really bad statement. Because it's not interesting at all, the fact that I talked about anime at a bar.
I mean,
If anything, that's a weird encounter.
like 10 years ago, that wouldn't have been a thing. Like, ever.
Yeah, very true. But anyway, I had an encounter at a bar where I was like, hi, new friend. You watch anime. I have a podcast about anime. And we're covering Demon Slayer right now. And they were like, I hate that show.
Ooh, that's a hot take.
So I'm like, okay, well, that's great. It's like, I feel like we always only talk good about the show.
I mean, deservingly so, yeah.
And they were like, I feel like it's one of those shows that has like a really good overarching plot, but really bad execution. I think the opposite.
No, I think they're doing it incredibly well all around.
I think they have a really bad plot, but they're doing it well.
I think the plot's fine
Well,
because they're setting it up mysteriously.
When you break the plot down to its base elements, there's one bad guy in the past several hundred years that's doing all the bad stuff. And only talking about, what we've gone up to so far, not reaching any further than that. You have Muzan, right?
Yeah.
And he's the one bad guy, the only demon who can make other demons. And it's like, you've had the Demon Slayer Corps, they said they've been going for hundreds of years, right?
Yeah.
So you have hundreds of years fighting one dude, just kill the one dude, like, main plot over. You get what I'm saying? Like, when you break it down to its base elements, you have one bad guy against 1,000 good guys. And that's a bad plot. Because all you're talking about is, oh, there's one bad guy causing all the bad stuff to happen, and that's the main enemy that we have to defeat. And there's nothing further around that.
I mean, there is plenty, but we're not there yet. But also, like, the main bad guy has been a mystery to even the Demon Slayer Corps, which is why
we don't know that. Like, no, like, how do we know his name and everything like that? It's one of those things where it's
maybe they've heard it throughout stories and history, but nobody's ever actually clocked a profile.
Yeah, but how would they have his specific name? And that's what I'm saying. It's like, we haven't seen anything in the show that dictates nobody knew where he was. Nobody knew exactly what was going on with him. It was just one of those things where it's like, if there's one demon that might be able to turn Nezuko back, it's the first demon that ever existed. And like I said, that's a bad plot because you have one overarching bad guy, and that's the whole entire thing in terms of like what the plot itself is. There's one bad guy, we're the good guys, we have to beat the one bad guy.
To be fair, that is a lot of anime though, especially a lot of old shonen.
But that's why I think it's a bad plot, but it's good execution. Whereas he was like, it's bad execution, but a good plot. And I'm like, how is that a good plot? Like, there's a lot of different things that you can do with that plot. But I don't think, like, as an overarching thing, that's like something to be praised. That's more of a cop-out plot, in my opinion. Because it's like, when you go and look at like these in-depth shows that go through all these different, avenues and everything like that, and you have a bunch of different characters that affect the overall plot versus, you have your main good guy and you have your main bad guy. And, that is the majority of shonen, granted. But at least there was a lot more twists and turns to get there. Like, we were talking about Bleach before, like, using that as an example of, like, getting to the Aizen arc and everything like that. It's like you had such an amount of time to get to that point where it's like you even knew Aizen was the bad guy in the first place.
Yeah. I do think there is merit to having a show, and it really depends on how long the show is. Does this one plot device, aka the one bad guy, service the whole show? And for what it is right now, it does, because they just keep building him up and making more and more of a threat, and we'll see that as we continue the show. But, there is merit to creating the one solitary bad guy in any situation. And that's really, it's all preference of opinion, which is why having these open discussions are fantastic.
What? We got another blooper right there.
That was funny. You were tampering with
I'm like, oh god, my computer's kind of shitting right now.
Oh no, what's happening?
I need to just
I need a doctor.
switch over. There we go. That should do it. What?
Well, back to my plot. I do think having one overarching bad guy does service the plot. It does depend, I think, on the length of the show. For something that has run as long as, let's say, One Piece or Naruto, having only one bad guy does not serve that kind of world justice.
No, not at all. And don't get me wrong, like throughout Demon Slayer so far, there's been other bad guys, but it's just the idea that there is only one and there can only be one.
But what's cool about it in Demon Slayers, all these other ones that we see are more like minions to Muzan, and
100%.
they serve his purposes. And that is very interesting and very cool. And I can't wait till we learn more about him in the show.
Well, yeah, I just feel like that's like Demon Lord or Ruler of Hell, or like it's just such a similar thing, which is why, like I said, I think great execution, but I think bad plot. And he was like good plot, bad execution.
I mean, that's funny because you did find two sides of the coin there.
Oh, 100%. Because like I love the show as a whole. Like I feel like it hits so many notes for me.
And I can't wait till you see stuff in the future. Maybe that'll change the way you feel a little more.
Maybe. But like I said, just talking about season 1 and only like the points that we've gotten up to so far.
We can revisit this conversation in later seasons.
All right. Fine, but I don't know if my opinion on it will change. I mean, we'll have to see what happens.
No, that's totally fair.
But I guess moving on, you didn't come up with a segue.
Oh, well, I am not the master of the segue, but
Am I?
No, I don't think any of us are, because I'm pretty much fried right now in my headspace. But we were gonna talk about kind of getting your friends.
All right, ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yep.
Are you ready? You're prepared.
Okay.
100%?
Yep.
200%.
Yeah.
Andrew, how do you get your friends into anime?
Ooh, and that's how you do a segue, folks. But yeah, no, it's it really depends on the friend. That's what I'm gonna say, because I have successfully done this in my lifetime, where some of my best friends were like, "Anime's weird. I don't want to watch it."
Sure.
One thing that does help, and this is like, I guess, first intro step, not really first step. I would have anime on when people were showing up to my house.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So I would be finishing an episode of something that I think they'd relatively like a little more, and they might kind of get sucked into it, and then maybe like, hey, can we rewatch that episode? And that happened a lot.
That's an interesting way of going about it. I've always been the one that's like, all right, well, like I'll ask what people like actually think about anime, and typically they'll tell me like, oh, like either it's made for kids or they don't like shows like Naruto. I almost said Naruto.
Boruto?
Yeah, I somehow combined the two. They don't like shows like Naruto or Bleach and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, well, either you think anime is childish or you think anime is all similar. And so typically what I'll do, like my number one recommended show, and it's probably not exactly telling for my anime preferences because I watch a whole lot of different style stuff. Although for the most part, admittedly, I do watch mostly shonen. But what I'll do is I'll recommend Death Note is probably my like number one recommended because it's like mystery anime. And it's like there are still those classic weird anime elements where it's like, oh, Shinigami, like, oh yeah, that's a god of death. And if you know nothing about like Shintoism and stuff like that, then you could be a little confused.
Oh yeah. I mean, it is one of those thinking anime.
Well, that's why I recommend it, because it's one of those things where it's
It's
like
stimulating.
a kid's not gonna watch that either.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
at
that's
least they're not
something.
going to comprehend it if they do.
Well, it's something that you can confidently say like this wasn't made for children.
Yeah, so there are plenty of animation.
Or I'll recommend Berserk.
Yeah, there's plenty of anime out there that fit different genres and scratch different like itches for different kinds of shows you might like. So one thing I also like to do when I'm trying to get friends into anime is I look at past shows that we might have discussed, whether that would be like some super long serialized anime, knowing that, well, not anime, sorry, show, that I know they could commit to one that's slightly longer. So like my friend really liked Doctor Who, so sci-fi, and also he really likes fantasy stuff. So I was like, sci-fi and fantasy are two things I could probably introduce him to.
I feel like those are some of the easiest to get people into, because of like you already have such suspension of disbelief in sci-fi and fantasy, like in normal works,
Yeah.
in non-animated works, I should say, especially with all the CGI and everything like that happens today. But the whole original point of animation was to be able to do things that you can't in real life.
And that's why we have such fantastical scenarios in animes that are like, oh, this piece of technology exists and it's cool. And it's like, but what if this happened with that piece of technology? And this is now the plot of this anime. Like SAO, for example, of people
Yeah.
getting stuck inside a video game with a virtual reality helmet. You're like, oh, that's never would have thought of that day to day. But now that that is kind of glaring and it's staring me in the face, that is something that could happen, and kind of think would happen.
Maybe not. Maybe not exactly like it happened in. But the whole idea that like nerve gear could become a thing, yeah. I mean, that's really popular today in most like, or I should say in a lot of like manhwas, the Korean version of manga. That's a really, really popular overarching thing where it's like
Trope of like video game.
where it's either like the reincarnated as trope,
Isekai.
where it's like they get reincarnated into a video game like world
Mm-hmm.
where they gain levels and they go through that, or like solo leveling.
Well, another thing I did to get one of my most stubborn friends into it was start him with something very lighthearted and comedic, but also short. So I showed my friend
Yes.
Baka and Test, which was like 11 episodes for the first season. And it has such a unique plot device of like, this is a school and there's
Oh.
hierarchies based
Now-
on grades.
Now I remember.
Oh, you remember now? But it was just silly enough. It was just funny enough, and it was short enough to kind of keep his attention, and then left him being like, that wasn't so bad. And it was mainly because he was very much into that comedic, funny, haha, slapstick style.
Sure.
And then there was that little bit of seriousness that kind of kept you interested in the plot, but he knew he would have a laugh every time he watched it.
I mean, that's something that I really like about One Piece.
Same, like little nuggets of humor that always.
So the other trope that I was about to say was the whole being in a virtual reality machine.
Okay,
Where they have like either like similar to the nerve gear where it's like just a headset, and then they have like capsules that you lay down in. But it's one of those things where it's like that's, I feel like, a very potential future with like brain scanning technology and everything like that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, like I could see weird inceptions of your dreams becoming video games.
Well, it's not that like it would be an inception of your dream. It's the whole like ability to simulate feeling and everything like that, and like having that be controlled by your brain the same way that your own body is controlled by your brain. So it's like then like going into that video game world where like you lay down in this and it's like put your body in the state as though you're dreaming, but you're actually like logging into this game.
Yeah, that I'm not gonna lie would be super cool, despite seeing the horrific sides of it vis-a-vis anime.
Oh, for sure, but who wouldn't love to do that? I
I
mean,
would still volunteer as tribute.
100%. I'll be in the actual Sword Art Online thing. I mean, I'd probably be one of those people that did not like. I'm so skinny. That's it's not gonna go about well.
It don't matter. You just become like a rogue.
No, I just meant like, the whole like loss of body mass that they all had.
Ah, yeah. You mean the withering body?
Yeah, because you're literally just laying in a bed,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but you're in a video game for several months.
One thing I kind of wish that we delve into, or they delve into on that series, was the fact that they transported people to hospitals, but how'd they do that without disconnecting the headset to the internet?
Generators.
Well, Japan does have free Wi-Fi,
That's true. I mean,
but also like that's risky, and they had to bring their computer. So how'd they keep their computer plugged in?
oh man.
Like
Well, maybe it was just through the nerve gear itself.
maybe I mean I did see. I believe there was a wire connected to a computer.
I remember there being a wire, but I'm giving benefit
Plot
of the
holes.
doubt
I'm not
here.
gonna talk about plot holes
Maybe
in
that's
this
just
show
a
that's super old now.
God. What are the data cables that are for light?
For light?
Yeah,
Oh God, you're making me think right now.
but you know what I'm talking about,
They
right?
do.
Help us out in the chat. What are the cables for data transfer that work with light? That makes me sound real smart.
Not like infrared ones, right?
No.
No.
Anyway, it
Uh,
could just be one of them. It's a data cable.
yep. We're going with data cable for now.
Well, it could get at that point you could. Uh,
What's a
there's got to
step?
be a different grid system in that.
Yeah. What's a step you would do specifically to get a friend into anime?
I mean, 9 times out of 10, I just tell them to watch it.
I know that. I
Like,
mean,
I guess it's a really bad way of getting people into anime. But I mean, usually what I'll do is just recommend shows that I think that they would legitimately like. And it's one of those things where it's like getting people to look past the fact that it's animated is probably the biggest hurdle that I've faced in that.
I find
Uh,
it the older they are, the harder it is to convince them to like watch something animated.
well, because I think it's that connotation of like, oh, it's made for children, and like I'll make that argument for anime with being like, there's so many different animes out there.
I know, and I wish, because people like my father who are like anime is weird
Well, that's my whole
from
point of saying that anime, like the whole point of animation is to be able to do things that you can't do in real life. So that's often the way I'll present it to people like that who are like, oh, like I don't like it because it's not realistic or it's cartoonish or whatever. And it's like, well, that's kind of the point of anime. And if you don't like things that are kind of, outside of the realm of reality, then yeah, you're not going to like anime.
yeah, but it is like, he's a big sci-fi head. So I'm like, there's so many things that you could watch that are so cool. Like their whole genre of mech. I was like, I feel like he would
See,
enjoy for the most part.
I don't like mechs.
It's weird because for me, I'm not the biggest mech person, so I don't watch every mech show. But I like things like Voltron, and I really like things like Power Rangers that used Voltron like robots.
For some reason,
And that was great.
for some reason, my suspension of disbelief just goes right out the window.
I mean, they are some of the most fantastical anime where it's like they designed this whole world around giant robots.
Yeah, but even like what was it, like Titanfall, or like the movies that have come out recently with the mech,
Like Pacific Rim.
like Pacific Rim, yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's like I said, my suspension of disbelief just goes right out the window cuz like in order to like move one step in one of those things, like you're going to die. Like it moves way too fast for a person to be inside to experience those G-forces. Like I forget which one it was, like which anime came the closest for me, because because you can't compress water, right? So the idea where you are floating in a tank inside of the machine makes the most sense to me because theoretically you'd experience less g-forces, right?
I'm not a physics person, but
I'm not a physics person either, but
it makes sense to have somebody suspended in a state where they're kind of controlling it with their mind.
well, it's not even about like controlling it with your mind or not. Like, it can be controlled, but like having that suspension in some form of like liquid, I feel like is
Was that Neon Genesis?
it might have been. Yeah. Yeah.
I think so. Because I remember Gurren Lagann was robots that control bigger robots that control bigger robots that control robots that are now the size of a planet in a star system.
Yeah, well that's absolutely ridiculous.
It's one of the best ones to watch though, because it's just crazy.
That sounds absolutely ridiculous. Like I
Yeah,
said,
in a great way.
If
though.
you move that robot, you've annihilated the population.
Oh, the fact that they were hurling galaxies at one another at one point. Yeah, no, death. It's utter death.
You're 100%. You controlling that cannot survive. You'd literally
No.
have to be at the center of a mass of gravity that's way too strong for your body to withstand. See what I mean? That's my suspension of disbelief goes right out the window with mechs because, like I said, in order to even move in one of those things, you need some kind of limitless technology that we don't have. That's like you need.
Oh
like,
yeah, we'll never have
like these
technology
need to be,
like that.
These need to be like gravity manipulating machines that allow you to even be on board one of these things in order to go, the several kilometer strides that you have. And forget about being punched. Forget about it. You literally got punched with a train.
Yep.
You're dead. Like I don't care what you're sitting inside at that point. You could be inside another train, you're still going to die. It's the same concept.
Yeah. No, you're right. Essentially, what they did is they took the Iron Man suit and then they made it really fucking big, and then they made it other ones to oppose those ones, and now their battles are just giant robots instead of soldiers.
Well, I thought the majority of that was well, I guess not.
Funny.
Because like reaching farther back, that's absolutely what it was with like exoskeleton suits and stuff like that. But I do often think of like the fighting giant monsters, you have giant mech suits for that.
Yeah, I was like, that makes sense. But there is a series coming out called Kaiju number 8, which I think would be really cool for us to watch. Where, it's people, special division, kind of like in One Punch, where like there's a special division of people defending, and you're like, oh, the main character, he's a kaiju.
That's kind of cool.
But he's kind of helping
that was
people.
So quiet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I I feel like we've been having some lows here.
You just went.
I wasn't sure if I wanted to blow that hand right out the gate, but
yeah, well, you can't say it low enough that the microphone can't hear you.
Well, it's one of those series that I do expect to kind of be cool, but the animation looked a little wonky.
I mean, it sounds
the
cool.
jump.
Oh, that's what I wanted to talk about. So there is a Chinese animation that I was talking to you about before that I really want to watch. I saw one of the fight scenes from it, and it is sick.
Rock.
I want to watch it so bad because it looks so good. Fog Hill of the Five Elements.
Fog Hell or Hill?
Hill.
Fog Hill of the Five Elements.
Yes. It looks
Nice.
so ridiculously good. I really want to pull something up to show you. I know our audience won't be able to see it.
You can also show me after. But there has been a lot of good Chinese shows that I've watched. Like Link Click is very cool.
See, I haven't watched any.
I would recommend watching Link Click too, because it's supernatural and very serious. So it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
And I don't want to like give away the plot. If you know what Link Click is, the premise is just, it's so unique. And if you want to know more, you can always hit me up in comments on like YouTube, and I can maybe give you a little synopsis.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, I was like, I don't want to like go too much in on synopsises for anime right now because we are talking about the fun way to get your friends into anime. But knowing their genre is a big thing.
I have a fun way to get your friends into anime.
What?
Just, tie them to chairs and tape their eyelids open. That
That-
could be fun for a lot of people.
That's kind of torture, borderlining torture.
Well, not if you get consent.
I mean, would they consent to having their eyelids taped open?
That's fair.
Maybe getting tied to a chair.
Well, for sure. I mean,
Just say it's a
lot
surprise.
of people who are into anime are into
Just
shibari.
say it's a surprise. But you got to get tied to this chair.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I'm condoning it.
You're condoning the kidnapping of your friends.
I didn't
Enforcing
say
them.
kidnap.
A person nap.
Look, you can invite them over,
They're not necessarily
sit
children.
them down in a chair, and tie them up. What's wrong with
Handcuff
that?
'em.
That's not kidnapping. They came over voluntarily.
But can they leave voluntarily?
Sure, it depends on how good they are or not.
It depends on how many episodes they watch.
Fair. I feel like, in order to get somebody into anime, sometimes you got to commit.
I'm going to quiz you after every episode, so you better be watching.
Yeah, don't threaten them. Don't do that.
Or do.
Make it fun,
This divulged into chaos.
I don't know. I really don't have very many suggestions around like getting people into anime because I'm not really good at getting people into anime. I'm very much the whole like, you like what you like and I like what I like and that's totally fine.
Yeah, but there's always that one seniored person who watches and you go, okay, so my suggestions to you would be this. But honestly, you kind of have to like know them pretty well. You can't just be like, I'm forcing this random stranger to watch anime.
No, that would be kidnapping.
I've had success in doing that as well with like past coworkers that
oh, sure.
they weren't into it. I described a show I was watching. They went home, they watched it. I didn't tell them to do it. They just did it.
Yep.
They said it sounded really cool the way you put it.
Well, honestly, that's probably the best way to get people in anime is just talk about the shows.
Hype
that you
it up.
like.
Just be like, when you're talking about it, don't be like, oh my god, fandom vomit all over them. Be very like upbeat and concise with what you like about the show.
Right.
But, yeah.
No, have fun with it. Don't.
Yeah,
don't
and I
act.
was like, if you make it seem like, oh, this is so cool, this is such a unique story, and you just keep talking about it, kind of like the way we talk about Demon Slayer, you can convince somebody off of that fact alone.
So, Fog Hill of the Five Elements. The art style I mentioned to you is like reminds me of Okami, the game. Just like a beautiful art style. I love that painted artwork.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
On top of that, I watched a 5-minute fight scene that had absolutely no words in it, and I was blown away. And I need to watch this anime. It's not an anime. I need to watch this animation. And I'm considering us doing maybe a watch along.
I would be down.
So let us know if that's something that you guys want to see. Yeah, and then we'll do it.
Yeah, and if you have any suggestions for things you think would be unique to have us talk about during a watch along, or even as
we'll talk about the show.
Well, I'm talking about like another show too. That might be interesting.
Oh, for sure.
Like if you have one that you think is really cool and unique, and you want to sell us on it, by all means, sell us on it.
Obviously, preferably it'll be not a lot of episodes.
Well, I mean, we can even do it in a filler episode where we talk about this show that we watched in our own time, and when we got to it, we got to it.
Yeah, but who knows? Like, we can't structure that at all. That would be a random thing that we did rather than
Nothing super long. If you do that, please.
Like, that's what I'm- that's what I'm saying.
25
It's like-
episodes would be my cap.
like that's So, like I said, not too many episodes.
Yeah, I was like 20, 25 or something like that would be my cap
Even that's
because
a lot because you're talking about like four, three or four episodes. So 3 episodes in an hour, roughly 3 or 4 episodes.
I would say is we would talk about just the show as a whole in like one episode.
Yeah, but like I said, like
Not
it's
not
still it still takes an hour of time to watch them. Like I have other stuff to do, and so do you.
I mean, yeah.
So it's like saying like we can't be like, oh yeah, like maybe we could do that in a month, but it's not something that we could be consistent on.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we could have just a list of things we might watch an episode here and there of, and then we could come to it once we've concluded watching them.
I feel like at that point it might be better for us to just do like a snippet at the end of filler episodes of talking about a different anime at that point.
I'm always down to talk about animes that I'm either excited for or, like new ones that I think are coming out, season 2s, 3s, whatever it is.
I did watch the first episode of Undead Unluck.
Yeah, and you said it was a little weird.
Yeah, it was a little weird. One of those good plots, bad execution in my opinion. Because like it's a really cool synopsis, but like the lead characters got real creepy real quick. And then it turned into like what's the term when somebody gets kidnapped and then falls in love with the person that kidnapped them?
That's like Stockholm syndrome or something like that.
Yeah, Stockholm syndrome. Pretty much turned into that at the end of the episode, and it was like, this is a little much. Like that's a super weird way of introducing an anime, you know what I mean?
Now, is it like yandere creepy, where it's like obsessive and possessive of like the person, or is it like more, just I really like this person because of
No,
the
it's like
scenario we're in?
No, it's like full blown maniac.
Oh, not what I expected. I'm
Well, it's like
probably
it's
gonna
the
watch
show.
it
The
at
show
some point.
starts off with the girl, the main character, wants to kill herself because of her like quote superpower. Hi everyone, Matt here. We ended up having a little bit of a flub. There was some construction going on outside our recording space, as well as the upstairs tenants decided to start walking around right exactly at that same time. So unfortunately, we weren't able to finish this episode for you, which I do regret. Hopefully, you still enjoy what we were able to put out today. Don't forget to come back next week, because we'll have more for you. I'm sure we will get back into Undead Unluck, so try not to worry about it. We'll circle back eventually. Thank you so much for watching Kyou no Anime. Next week, we're going to have, back to our main episodes. I believe next episode we have a singular episode that we're covering. Episode 4 of Demon Slayer, or Kimetsu no Yaiba. Come along, check us out. We'll be happy to have you along in our main episodes as well as our fillers. I know we're so random on our fillers. We hope you're enjoying them. Let us know if you'd like to hear anything from us. And until next time, enjoy watching. Hi everyone, Matt here. We ended up having a little bit of a flub. There was some construction going on outside our recording space, as well as the upstairs tenants decided to start walking around right exactly at that same time. So unfortunately, we weren't able to finish this episode for you, which I do regret. Hopefully, you still you still enjoy what we were able to put out today, don't forget to come back next week because we'll have more for you. I'm sure we will get back into Undead Unluck, so try not to worry about it. We'll circle back eventually.